Good morning. It's a new year. I meant to tell you guys, the van is awesome. You know, a lot of the videos I was doing the last couple of years were about working on the van and all the modifications I did to make it better for off-road. Swapping things out, experimenting with things, doing things, redoing them, finding out what worked, finding out what didn't. Keeping in mind, I'm not a mechanic, you know, just my brain works and I'm mechanically inclined. There's one guy who's giving me grief, and it's okay, everything's fine. But I wanted to mention it. What are you waiting for? Crazy, man. There's a guy I watched that has a van. He did a bunch of stuff to it that is kind of not correct, especially with his suspension. And I made a kind of a thing trying to help him out and the rest of you guys. Why are you running down the middle of the street, dude? And he's looking at me like I'm crazy. There's a guy running down the middle of the street right at me, and he's giving me a look like, what's my problem? I think I'll be moving to Arizona quicker than I might have realized. I don't know how much longer I could take it here. Anyhow, so yeah, I did this thing, and I have talked about the engine mounts in these vans before, and I'm getting guys saying things that I find to not be correct, but I'm not going to argue with them. I don't even know them. So, you know, I'm just not going to go there with it. Anyhow, I wanted to talk about briefly the engine mounts on these vans, because there's a company, Prothane, that makes an aftermarket bushing kit that works in a particular engine mount bracket. What I think is going on is that they made it for the brackets, the cages, for the two-wheel drive Astro vans. The two-wheel drive Astro vans and the all-wheel drive Astro vans are different. The engine mounts in the all-wheel drive Astro vans are left-right specific. And the ones I took out of my van had part numbers on them that were different. What makes them left-right specific is the bushings inside the metal cages are slid back inside the cages about 3/8 of an inch. If you go to the store and you buy the engine mounts, because they're wrong. All the computers are wrong. They're telling you that they're all the same, and they're not. Now, you can put them in. You can put them in. You can go buy, and they're garbage. It's hit or miss. If you go back and watch my engine mount videos, you'll see I purchased many different types. Just from Napa alone, I got a couple different types. I got AutoZone, Napa, online, all of it. Now, and so you can see the comparison and the thickness of the metal on the cages and the shapes of the bushings and the quality of the bushings, the material it's made out of, all of it. And when I first got the van, I had a sag with the engine, and I went ahead and brought the van in to get it worked on, you know, have the engine mounts done. It wasn't something I wanted to do that first time. Didn't feel comfortable with it, you know, working on the ground with it. Don't go anywhere. All right. So, as I was saying, so I went ahead and I bought a couple different types. I brought them to the mechanic shop that I went to at that time, and we looked at all of them, and we decided on a set that seemed to look the toughest. And we put them in. And 2 days later, my engine was sagging again. So a period of time went by, and eventually we took them out, and I tried something else, and I made I eventually went with the Prothane, and I made the little bracket riser plates just with an 1/8 inch, I think I did at that time. And when I put the Prothane bushings in, they didn't fit the cages that I had. It's a whole long story, but the cages I had, I'm telling you, I'm still sure are the ones for the all-wheel drive. Now, maybe what I'll do, if I could figure it out, because last night I went into my pictures and I found them when I was going through this process of the engine mount discussion. I did that and I put those videos out, and then I called this guy in Prescott, those Journeys guys, to do the lift. And I was talking to him on the phone, and the subject came up, and he goes, oh, there's this guy on YouTube right now, he doesn't know what he's talking about. And I said, I am that guy, I know exactly what I'm talking about. But he didn't want to agree with me. But when I got to his pad, and here's the funny thing, the crazy thing, he had an old chassis, an original Astro van chassis, all-wheel drive, the front end clip that we have in these vans, and he had the original mounts still in there, and they were exactly what I told him. And I told him, I was explaining to him how the torque of the engine, as the rubber breaks down in the bushings, starts pulling the bushings off. So your passenger side gets pulled to the bottom, and your driver's side goes pulled up to the top, and the bushings are slid back more. It's all the things that we know, you should know. If you don't know this and you're going to argue with me, then you don't know. And they were sitting right there, and I showed him, right? I took the pictures, and if you look at the pictures, they're exactly the same cages I have. So I'm just telling you, the all-wheel drive bushings, originally, engine mounts, cages and bushings, are different than the two-wheel drive. So I think what Prothane did was that they made their bushing to fit the cage that is really for the two-wheel drive Astro van. That's what I think is going on, because I had to shape it. Now, this guy yesterday made this stupid comment on the video, like, don't blame your inadequacies for a superior product, because you butchered the job. It's like, shut the fuck up, man. Just shut up. This is one of those dudes, Like a weirdo, man. He's probably got a cat sitting on his shoulder, It's just it's ridiculous. The polyurethane bushings, I was warned, they vibrate more. You feel it. I definitely felt it when I put it in. Absolutely. I talked about it when I first got it, and I thought, well, I'll live with it. And then I was having other issues. Now, part of my thing originally with my problems with it was when we made these custom engine lift brackets. Dave made them. They were sent to us by Kai out in the desert, Mojave, Astro or something. I forget. I'm sorry, Kai. Awesome dude, Japanese guy. I want to go out and meet that guy at some point. But anyhow, he sent us a set. Dave looked at him and said, okay, we can improve on this with the welding and whatnot. He made a jig and he made a set. They worked out great. And he made mine, but something happened in his shop where his jig got knocked. So my brackets were wrong. So I was getting a vibration, more so because the brackets that we put in were just incorrect. But I had already been feeling a little bit with the polyurethane. So when we got the right ones in, I rebuilt my engine mounts and I put rubber in them. Initially, I did it before we fixed the brackets, and I put little blocks of, it's a long friggin' story. But anyhow, I got it right. Now, what I ended up doing was I went back to the rubber bushings in the mounts, and I was kind of lucky because I had saved a lot of the other engine mounts I bought, because they're inexpensive. The Astro van engine mounts, when you buy them, they don't cost a lot of money. $8, $12, and a couple of them had rubber that you could see was better quality, and it had little markings and numbers that were in the cast of the mold, when they form those things. And that will typically denote a better product. So I had two of those. I was able to put them in my brackets, and I slid them back and all of it. I might have jumped over this, might not have mentioned it, or I didn't get it correct. I just want to point this out again or reiterate. If I did say it earlier, you're going to hear it again. When I put the ones in that I bought from the store in the van originally, when the van sagged again 2 days later, when I took those out, the bushings, the rubber bushings inside those mounts had slid back inside the mounts, right? That's when I knew, because I had read somewhere else and I wasn't sure at the time that they're left-right specific. So I'm telling you, if you go buy a set from the store and you put them in your all-wheel drive Astro van, and then you drive around and you go back and look at them again, if you take them out a week later, you're going to find that those rubber bushings have been pulled back inside the cages. That is just how it is. You can argue with me all you want. You're wrong. If you're going to argue against that. I know what it is. I've seen it. I've seen it on the old ones, on the factory, on the front clip. That was an old one with all the original parts still on it. You can see it. It's a thing. So I just wanted to say that, get that out of the way. This is already 10 minutes of things that don't matter. The main thing is the van is running like a top. I've done several road trips with it to Arizona and back. I'm super happy. Mileage is fine. The MPGs. On this trip, I was lucky this time. There's a lot of climbing here, California into Arizona. There's a lot of mountains. You got to go up and down and all that. So if you're going up a grade, it's not going to be great. Speed doesn't matter. I could be doing 60. I could be doing 80. It's about the RPMs when you're in the gear, in fourth gear. So getting to the speed is where you're burning gas. Once you get to the speed, it levels off. I could be going up a grade. Again, I could be doing 60 or I could be doing 80. And this thing will get, like if I'm going up a grade, and this I'm overloaded, the thing's a brick on wheels, it's a high lift with bigger tires, new computer reflashed to work with. I got different shifting points now, which is better for fuel efficiency because it shifts quicker. And I did all the right things. But it'll only be like on a grade 13, 14 miles per gallon. Sometimes it'll drop to 12. If I step on it, it'll drop to 6 or 7. But once I get to a flat spot, I'm not talking on a downgrade, just flat and cruising. Again, I could be doing 60, I could be doing 80, and I could be getting 17 to 22 miles per gallon. So, you know, that's pretty good. That's pretty good. And I don't care to, I'm always looking at it, but it doesn't matter. You got to stop and get gas. And as somebody else pointed out to me a while ago in one of these videos, dude, relax, don't worry about it. Even if you didn't get good gas mileage in it, the thing's paid for. You're not making payments and paying for gas, which is a good point. But just so you understand, 32-inch tire, they're shorter than that, but that's what it's called. And having a lift with all that airspace underneath and everything else is drag, and it's going to hurt your fuel economy, right? So I will tell you, if you're going to do an all-wheel drive Astro van and convert it to 4x4 with the MP233 transfer case and all the stuff I did, you're better off keeping your tires a little smaller. The best power range I had and fuel economy and everything was when I had more of the 30-inch tire. So you might want to consider that and not go with as high of a lift, and you'll probably be fine. The only issue with this whole thing is you crank your torsion bars and everything else, your CV axles have that angle. It's not the best. I finally found a decent set that are working. There is a company that makes a really interesting CV axle for Toyotas. They also make it for the older Jeeps, I think like the Cherokees or something, which is similar to the Astro van. It's a different spline count though. But what it is so you've got your CV axle, has a CV on each end. One slips into your differential, the other goes to the tire. This would be the driver's side one. And there's a thick piece of steel, right, in the center that connects everything. Well, theirs has a two-piece thing. It's fatter, and there's a piece that goes into it. Yeah, so this thing goes in and out here like this. And so what it does is, because you have a lift, as you corner and go over rocks and things, it extends and goes back and out. And the CVs themselves are weirdly designed in a positive way. They're shorter, and there's more bearings in them, and they're designed to handle the more extreme angle that you have on your CV when you have a lift. They don't make them for the Astro van. I've been meaning to contact that company. If you're watching this and you're interested in this, maybe you can do some groundwork for me. If you have the lift and you're curious about it, because I keep talking about going to the straight axle, which is the plan. Here's the crazy thing. Since I started talking about that, I've made way more money. I easily could have done it by now, but I've been spending too much money on watches. And other stuff. It's ridiculous. So I could have already had the straight axle in here, and which is going to be a big job, and that could be $8,000 by the time it's all said and done. You buy a whole Jeep front end, JK front end, You get a kit. You know, people want to charge $3,000 for a kit. The other thing's $5,000 for the front end. I mean, you understand what I'm saying? You got to pay somebody to do it. I'm not going to do it. That's too much work for me. I am not a fabricator. Whereas these CV axles, I think they're $1,000 a piece. So if I could contact them and they could basically take their center section with their CVs and do the correct spline on there, they might do it. They might charge a little extra for it. But even if it costs me $3,000 to buy the set, that's a pretty good deal. Then I wouldn't have to go through the whole trouble of going with a straight axle. You still have all your issues. Having independent front suspension for off-road, you know, that's a lot of parts to break. Obviously, a straight front axle is always going to be better off-road, but it's an option that I'm going to look into, and then, you know, I'll let you know how that goes. The only thing wrong, other than any creaking or rear suspension you might hear, a lot of the noise you might hear when I'm driving is just crap that's in the van. But my sway bar links on the front, the bushing on one is out, blew out on me. I bought a replacement set. Here's the interesting thing. I'll have to show it to you. I can show it to you. It's right here. I really should be working. But these came with instructions that the other ones didn't. And when I put mine in, I put them in like this. This at the top and the bolt at the bottom through that hole in the lower control arm, right? Well, these directions tell you... No. I did it this way. This is the way I installed it. With this in the bottom, these instructions tell you to put this at the top. And they specifically tell you if you don't do this, it's going to fail. Dar. Now, the problem is with this in the bottom, and because of the rubber, it's so tight down there now that it's installed, I can't get a wrench on this anyhow, even if I could turn it. And I can't get anything up in here to turn this. So the only way to get these out is to cut them. Because this is under here, I finally thought of something the other day. I think I could get underneath there with a drill bit, drill right through here into the lower control arm and leave that as a pin. And then get up on here and turn this, and this will stay stationary, and I'll be able to remove it. If that's the case, I'm just going to take these bushings and put them on what's there. The reason for it, actually, you guys tell me. This length right here is shorter than the one I have on there. And this is the heaviest duty one available on Amazon for this van. But that's for factory size. So you tell me if it's better. I think it's better to have the longer one than the shorter one. I do like the knurling on this sleeve here, but that's just aesthetics and it's not that important. It's underneath the vehicle. But I'd like to take this apart, do what I said, pin it so I can pull that, and just replace the bushings on both links. And it'll be all pretty and red. You guys know I like a little red. Little pop of color underneath the chassis is always cool. Anyhow, that's just a talk up on the Astro van. I know it's been a while. There's been a lot less of it because I've been busy working, which is a good thing. That's another thing. When I was doing all the work on the van, I had less work. I was kind of struggling financially more. And, you know, things have picked up a little bit. Which has nothing to do with the economy or anything. I just got lucky with a client that's just keeping me tremendously busy. All right, let this thing get hot, you know, blow out that exhaust, blow that moisture out of the exhaust. Anyhow, I'm gonna get to work. Thanks for being here and listening. And you guys can give me grief. It doesn't bother me. Like, as you know, it's always funny to me when I get one of those people in the comments. Because they reveal a lot about themselves with their nonsense, and it gives me something to talk about. So keep it up, jerk. This is the one guy. The rest of you are all cool because you're here. I know you're pretty cool. That's it for now. Have a nice day. I'll catch you guys in the next one.